All right. And after that comes, well, pretty much everybody that makes the foundation possible. To all of the members and donors of the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, our individual members, corporate members, special partner institutions and senior special partner institutions, all of whom make the foundation's work possible. Thank you for your generosity and support. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and we are a member-supported nonprofit organization. If what we do today brings you any value, if you are perhaps engaged in similar industries as to the topic of today's session, or you'd like to know more about us, gain access to our wide range of agribusinesses and countryside development organizations, get in touch with our speakers, join us for our sessions in our informal sessions and our informal discussions after our what we upload to social media. Do consider joining us as a member. Our links are in the description. Leave a comment, send us an email, introduce yourself. We'd be very happy to get to know you and welcome you on. Anyway, without further ado, today's session is a very, very exciting one, and I'm glad to invite a friend on to be a speaker for this morning. And I'll ask our chair, Mr. Ernie Ordonez, to introduce our speaker. Ernie, please.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to all of you a very dynamic person, Mr. Rafael Dionisio. He's very, if the topic is interesting, so is he. He is a person who is a practitioner. He's involved in quite a few things. He is a co-founder of the Circle Hostel. And in addition, he actually today is involved in tourism based on agriculture. In addition, he knows construction. He's the president of ABCD Green Construction with an environment bent. And right now, the question right now is, can agriculture grow when the environment is not cooperating? So he's in both areas because he's also a passionate person, wants to help the country. And today he's going to talk about environment, tourism, and agriculture. And actually, he goes beyond that. He's incubating a very interesting program called the Forest Farmers Program, where there's cashew, honey, etc. And then with that comes water restoration, soil nurturing, and forestation. He really has a holistic view. So we're very excited to hear him and how he ties this all together. But so that we make sure that this doesn't stay here, we always ask our speakers to do three things. First of all, their numbers. So anywhere in the world, you know, we have a few here, but around the world, thanks to the board headed by Julius, we have 2,000. Last time I reported it was 1,400. Now it's 2,000 individuals, different individuals, every month with a high reaction rate. And therefore, the first one is please give us your phone number. Okay, with Viber, it's free, right? Okay. The second one, of course, is we want a personal relationship with him. So we not only want to know his, professional background in terms of statistics and his topic, but maybe some of his personal life, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, how he got into this, why he chose this rather than finance or something else, how he got involved in this, because that will give us personal connection. And the third one, which he was informed of before the actual forum, is that we don't want this just to be words, we want action. So if you can tell us how we, or his audience, which incidentally, in addition to being 2,000, is gender neutral now, about 60% men, 40% women. And of course, age, right? Used to be a lot of people over 55. Now half are below 45, etc. So tell us in the audience, even those abroad, how we can expand his vision. So on that note, number one, phone number. Number two, your personal experience. And number three, during the talk, how we can expand your vision. On that note, I'm very pleased and happy to introduce for our speaker today, Mr. Rafael Ignacio Dionisio. Rafi, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Ordonez, and good morning to everyone. Right, I'm really honored and pleased to be here. Julius, thank you for the opportunity to share. So I noted on the introduction part. So maybe what I'll do, the style that I like to take is very story oriented, right? And let me just open by saying that I went to Ateneo, and initially the dream that I was set out to follow was to be the president of a multinational corporation, maybe a bank or a FMCG company. But I did work there for a while, Johnson and Johnson. I interned for HSBC, but I realized it didn't match my strengths and skills. So I started looking outside, right? And that brought me to the countryside. No? Just flashing my contact here. I'll flash it again later. And so these two landscapes are the landscapes that perhaps are closest to my heart. One is the ocean, and the other is the mountain, right? And the stories will revolve around the reef and the ridge. Um, and perhaps just to give a glimpse of like the value system that we're following, I like to put up this comic strip. It's a group of dumagat talking to a large company. The large company wants to invest in their land to develop it, and the elder says, "For us indigenous people, we want progress, but progress for us is different from the progress you have in the city. Progress for our community means taking care of the land and the sea." And I subscribe to this kind of idea that we must protect what gives us resources, right? Because there is no wealth on a dead planet, right? And so the theme that I'll be going from here is generally moving from an extractive mindset to a regenerative or at least sustainable mindset in terms of how you do your business, right? And as I mentioned, I didn't like the FMCG life. And so I set out to put up my first business in the countryside, which is a surf hostel. So it brought me to the beach. This was one of the three that we put up in La Union. And I got a lot of time in the water, right? Always enjoying fresh seafood, right? This guy was one of the guys who trained me, and he posted this photo, which was very disturbing. This was posted back in 2016, and he was surfing a wave of trash, right? And it upset a lot of us in the industry because one, we couldn't eat the fish we didn't want to eat the fish that were swimming in this part of the ocean. Two, it is bad for the surf business, any beach business, because nobody comes to a dirty beach, right? And what we saw is how the Philippines had really disastrous waste management habits. Yeah. So what we realized as we researched more is that plastic causes corals to get sick. In fact, if plastic latches onto a piece of coral, that coral is 89% more likely to get sick. And if it's sick, it can't help produce seafood. And the corals produce about 1,000 kilos of seafood per hectare per year, right? So that is an issue, right? And because I do love mathematics, I tried to calculate how much money from seafood do we lose into a dirty Manila Bay. So we got data from the Smithsonian Museum, just very conservative estimates about how much reef the ocean floor has. Applied that to Manila Bay, and this is the infographic that we have. No, and definitely, if you guys have more accurate data, we'd love to learn more about that. But more or less, our estimates is that Manila Bay is worth almost 3 million kilos of seafood per year. Pasig River is probably 17,000. And Laguna de Bay, another 900,000 kilos. That said, it's great that they can produce, but is it clean enough for us to eat, right? That is the question. And this problem just keeps spreading around the country, right? And the reality is that cleaner oceans means cheaper food for us, right? Because if corals are healthy, then fish galore, right? And so one of the things that my friends and I did was we came up with a campaign to just get people to segregate, right? I'll play for you a short BBC feature on what we did.
when I talk to people in poor communities, they think that a plastic wrapper for biscuits is the same as a banana peel.
So just in the interest of time, we started building with different kinds of trash as much as possible, and anything that didn't have to bear any load. So just our walls, our dividers, outside, our gardens. And this is one example where we were able to convert trash into a wall. It's still there until now. It's about 8, 9 years old now, this wall. And we started doing a lot of events to help people clean up, right? And one of the metrics that is very hidden about plastic is that it contributes to our warming climate or changing climate, right? 1 kilo of plastic we use is worth 3 kilos of carbon in its production cycle, and usually when it's burned away at the end, right? And so the climate also makes our food and our livelihood quite difficult, and so avoiding plastic is key, right? And we started looking at where does it start, right? And it starts with behavior. This particular photo shows how everyone who dined in kept using takeout cups, right? I mean, if you hang out in the coffee shop for 3 hours, why would you use a takeout cup in that sense? And I hung out in this shop for about 6 hours just to see what people were doing. And it's definitely rooted in our behavior. Now, we also acknowledge that plastic isn't the only waste we have. There's a lot of it, and different kinds, different categories, right? Paper, cardboard, textiles. Of course, organics are the largest, right? And whenever we started telling people, "Hey, segregate your waste, reduce plastic," they would say, "Great, we'll do it, but what do we do with the other stuff?" Right? And so we came up recently in partnership with farms and with Coke and Lighthouse Foundation that a program called Level Up Cleanup, where in the cleanups we explain the connection between our food and our waste, and then we show different waste recycling options, all kinds of waste, and also waste reduction options. Here are the suppliers that you can use if you want to reduce your waste, right? So that you can move into a more reusable lifestyle, right? In that sense. And so helping people understand the problem and connecting them to solutions proved to be very helpful, right? And it goes, when you think about it, it's really about people understanding, right? And when people understand something, they take care of it. And if they don't, then we can't expect them to take care of it. And the education system we've had for the longest time is quite disconnected from the nature that grows our food or where we get our resources from. Right? And so we have an ambitious goal to support the cleaning of Manila Bay, and that means the connecting Pasig River and Laguna Dibay. We already have programs in the Manila Bay area for cleanups and hopefully to set up a recycling area soon. This year we hope to set up shop by Laguna Dibay and Pasig River, because Manileños, anyone in Manila has to understand that this is the bioregion we have. It's still nature, but it needs our help, right? And that reef to ridge storyline is what we communicate with our tourism, right? So I mentioned earlier that these are the two landscapes I like. One is the ocean and one is the mountainside. The mountainside is a little different, right? And when you take a step back and you look at what's happening around the Philippines, right? Last year we had really delayed rains. I'm sure you guys felt that, right? In 2023, this went under the radar because Siguran Aurora hit 60 degrees Celsius heat index. So if you stay under 60 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, you'll probably get sick, maybe even less time. No? And then the heat that we're experiencing is causing corals to bleach faster and faster. We're on the 4th or 5th massive coral bleaching. Right? And so again, that spells trouble for our fisheries sector. No? And so I started talking to different people. I started looking for the most educated people I could find with university graduation with top schools. And I asked them, can you connect carbon and climate change? And many people said no. So I came up with this short graphic to explain it. We had 4 storms coming into the Philippines last October, November, right? These are the 4 horsemen. And why did it happen? Basically, rays of the sun hit the earth absorbs the warm sunlight to grow life, and the earth automatically reflects everything we don't need to prevent overheating. So that's our cycle. However, with the presence of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide or methane, these gases reflect back the heat that's supposed to go out, right? And so that heat starts to cause weather disturbances in certain areas. It could be stronger winds, stronger waves, right? Because of the heat. And that transitions into the storms that we experienced last year. And so the more carbon, the hotter, the more storms, and the stronger they get, right? And if you want to look at the sources of carbon, the Stanford School of Sustainability shared this graphic, right? This is a global graphic. The Philippine distribution is a little different, but it's a good graphic to look at because these are the major factors that threaten our livelihood, our food, right? Carbon comes from industry, so that's construction. Protecting nature is mangroves, forest, peatlands. Fixing food means how do we grow our food? Is it high methane, low methane? And then, of course, the 2 others are about energy in transport, and then energy in our buildings, right? And then the removing carbon, that's just carbon that our ancestors have already used up, right? And we have to take that out if we want to avoid the worst of climate change. And so moving into the agritourism that we have, we're in a landscape where we've lost most of the forest. So this is the Philippine map. If you look at the history books, there are quotes from meetings in the US. I'm not sure if it's a Senate or Congress, where basically in the 1900s, when the US purchased the Philippines from Spain, the US Congress explained to the then president that Luzon had soil which was healthier than any farm in California, and that the Philippines had lumber to last generations, right? And they mined all of it without, unfortunately, replanting the lumber that was taken. And so some of the things that's happened is drought, right? We have wildfire. 2 of the photos down here are photos of my team, right? That they face wildfire every year. And then, of course, the storms get stronger as well. All of this bad for agriculture business. Flooding, I'm sure, is something that you've experienced as well. And it's ironic that a lot of people don't understand the value of having a watershed where trees can hold up to 2,000 liters of water, right? And we're hoping that more and more local governments, universities, organizations push for protecting and restoring our watersheds, right? Because many of the watersheds that provide waters to rivers are not in good condition. This example, some rivers losing 75% of their water, right? And this particular short video explains it very well, right? So you've got 2 boxes. The box on your left represents a mountain without trees, and the box on the right represents a mountain with trees. And so when you're watering both boxes, you can see what's happening. Like, are they, how does the water behave in both boxes, right? That's the question, right? So if you notice, the box on the left, the water flows from the top. It flows very fast. It brings with it all the topsoil that if you're farming in that area, you're going to have to refertilize everything because the water just brought down with it all the healthy topsoil. Meanwhile, on the right side, if you've got an agroforest or a permaculture forest setup, you've got less water runoff, and the water percolates down to the aquifer below. Right? And so if both of these are mountains, you're very safe if you live at the foot of the mountain on the right, but you're not safe if you live at the foot of the mountain on the left, right? And many of our mountains, they are kalbo or denuded, right? And I guess it begs the question, how much extra does a farmer have to spend if irrigation is via gas-powered deep well pumps, right? I always travel to Central Luzon, and I always see a lot of farmers lined up in gas stations with huge tanks filling in with gas. And I asked them one time while I was in line, so what's the gas for? He goes, oh, it's for my deep well pumps. We don't have enough water, so I need the gasoline to power it to get the water from 200, 300 feet below. And per kilo, it sometimes costs them as much as 8 pesos per kilo extra just because of the water, right? And if you look at the rice prices today, definitely some of those are affected by the spending on irrigation uh, through gasoline. Now, I put together these two pictures for you. On the left is the top part of the mountain on the left is what you call golf course green mountains. No trees up there, so there will be no water and that'll burn quickly. And on the right side, that's a mountain with generally, at least more than half of it has trees on it. So it's a darker color, right? I put this together because as you go around the countryside, look at what's on top of the mountains. Is it golf course green or is it dark green, right? Because if it's bright green now, it's pretty, but it will burn or die in the summer, right? And grass that dies in the summer is what we always see in one of our projects, which is in San Felipe, Zambales. We work with the Aitas, right? And the backstory here is that this site was actually in the same town where I had my surf hostel in Zambales. So after surfing, I went hiking, and this is what I encountered, right? And I was very moved because the valley was so beautiful. You see the kids there walking, but it was so hot and it always burned as early as 2011. It was burning already, right? And so my friends and I, we said, let's try to help because if you add more trees here, the walk will be nicer. And the ancestral domain of these Aitas is about 4,000 hectares. So we wanted to help them replant and we wanted to give them livelihood because most of them had no work. Most of them only finished grade 5 or grade 6, right? No electricity, no water when we arrived, right? And so we set up a tour, right? From the hostel, we would bring guests to their land. This is a picture of their domain. And we called it tribes and treks, right? So you could walk through the ancestral domain, very scenic, right? And then we would rent the carabaos so that we had grab carabaos in case people did not want to walk the 10 kilometers. And then upon entering the village, we'd have an immersion program. They'd learn archery, right? We'd get the elders to talk about the different herbs that they have that they use for medicine. Very interesting. What's medicine for them is actually pleasurable tea for us. And so we've also developed some of their tea. And then we coach the communities on what to serve guests that come in, especially foreigners or people from Manila, right? One famous example we have is we had one community elder, one lady, nanay, and she was very good at making paksiw, and she was so proud of it. She served it to a bunch of foreigners. But I told her, ma'am, when you have white Caucasian, generally paksiw is not a safe bet, right? And so we've kind of tweaked the menu a bit so that they serve al fresco but high quality food. Now usually soup, adobo, fried fish, vegetables. And then we of course have a community program where there's singing and there's dancing. And then we plant as much as we can: bamboo, fruit trees, forest trees. And the chieftain at the time, his name is Erese de la Cruz. This is the gentleman. After our first successful tour with him, we were supposed to pay him about, what's that, 4,000 pesos as a test run. And then he said, "Sir, don't pay me the money." And I told him, "Why? I brought you 20 people. I did this so that you could have livelihood, so that we could help you plant your fruit and forest trees. Why don't you want the money?" And he said, "Sir, because if you give me money today, I might spend it on cell phone load, we might spend it on cigarettes, or we might spend it on 3-in-1 coffee for the community. And that's not sustainable. Hindi yan papakinabangan ng matagal." And so I asked him, "So what do you want, chieftain? Anong gusto mo? Because I feel obligated to pay you something because you rolled out the red carpet for us in this pilot tour. And the whole objective was to empower you. We wanted them to have livelihood too." And he said, "If you're serious about helping us, kung seryoso ka, look at our ancestral domain. It's 4,000 hectares, but it's empty. So if you're coming back, bring us seeds, because seeds we will plant. And even if the seeds are stolen, the thief will plant the seeds in their area, and the youth of this town will benefit from the seeds, right? And so he was passing on to us the idea that there are more currencies than money, that you must empower them and meet them where they're at, right? Very sustainable in mindset. And so what we did was we started gathering for them different seeds, first forest seeds, and then seeds of fruit and other agricultural items. So here's what happened since we started. Right? We're headed here. That area. On the left is 2017. And then we monitored the progress 2021. By 2024, the forest had started growing very well. And a lot of the nursery work was done by visitors, by guests who came along, shared an hour or two working in the nursery. It really encouraged the community. Now, some of the community members, upon seeing all this effort, said, "Sir, but kalikasan lang? Why only the environment?" Right? And I told them the environment's important, and they said, "Sir, mahalaga yung kalikasan, pero pag wala kaming kakainin, paano yan? Puputulin namin yung mga punong yan." And they were referring to the context of how around the country, there has been a lot of effort to replant, right? I know there was about 7 billion that went into reforestation as early as 2014 or 15 or even 16. But a lot of these programs were environment only and didn't take into consideration the livelihood of people around them, right? And that's why we made sure that we also provided different agroforestry or agriculture opportunities for them. So here's some of the items. So we started with root crops. The money that Chief Pen rejected, we used to travel to Baguio City, and we asked for ube or purple yam from the Sisters of Good Shepherd, and they gave us a ton of ube seeds. And that was turned into chips for the community that they still serve today. And here you can see as more and more people started planting, trees started growing, and we started to notice a reduction in the temperature in the area, as high as 13 degrees Celsius. And we started seeing different insects coming back, whether they're bees, wasps, and the production of certain items such as organic honey started to become more frequent, right? We also started working on the edge of the forest, saying, hey, let's do agroforestry here already. And even in the middle of COVID, we were already growing some fruit trees in the area with the community. We also tried planting bamboo early on, right? And in the years to come, we started harvesting the bamboo for different kinds of products, like bamboo parols, which you could sell during Christmas, very sellable, right? And our favorite, we saw that the soil in the area was actually pretty good for cashew, which didn't need a lot of maintenance. And so we started picking up cashew seeds in the area and planting them. The community started selling some to the local DTI processors in 2021. They make cashew butter, right, as well. So these are just some of the examples that we've had over the years, using the tourism to keep coming back and keep looking at what the farmers are doing, saying, oh, let's add more seeds here. And visitors are always very helpful. When they see that farmers are hardworking, they want to help, and they usually donate, right? And so here, this is our simple before and after. There's more water in the area now. So in 2017, we had to reject coffee seedling donations because we said it's too hot. But now we feel that we can grow some coffee because we've got some shaded areas, or at least a few pockets where coffee will grow better. in our area, and with the improved water system. And at the close of 2024, Chieftain planted 25,000 more. So we're close to 90,000 trees at the moment. And of the 90,000, about 30,000 are cashew, right? And they're growing nicely. You see here, we started planting in the middle of COVID, right? And we're hoping we can harvest more. The cashew from Zambales is very, very good. And we have some, if you guys. And the other thing that we're looking at also is we're asking ourselves, what are the perennial things that they can grow? And because they have so much tea, medicinal, anonas, guyabano, banaba, coffee leaf tea, we said let's try to process it and see what and sell it through the tourism, right? Because when guests come, they always want to bring home something, and even if they're not coming back, they keep on buying. So tea is a nice beverage for them to sell also. Now, I wanted to share this side story, in terms of how we got to where we were. This is 2017. I had the chance to listen to then Secretary Piñol in a talk, and I told him about our project, and he graciously introduced us to the DA's office and connected us immediately. He said, "Oh, DA Region 3, please give them the seeds they need, whatever you need." No, so great. We had a meeting. Everyone's very happy. But what we realized upon getting to the Region 3 office was that there was a long wait list for seeds. I'm not sure, Julius, Mr. Donis, if that's still the same today, but there's so many farmers who need seeds. And normally what I see in different communities is the farmers get seeds, but it's not in the quantities they need. Bitin ng konti, sometimes bitin ng marami. And so we asked ourselves, we have to be creative with how we get our seeds, because we can't we can't have these farmers wait for so long. So one of the things we started doing was we came up with a program called Sustainability Shakedown, where we do smoothie making and seed saving together, right? Because we all have access to quality seeds in the city through our fruits and vegetables. So it's a workshop that we run for kids, for corporations. It's a way to teach them about what I just discussed, but it's also a way for us to gather some seeds, which we have been able to plant. And, we've been very creative in coming up with recipes that feature local fruits, so that we can get the seeds that that match the soil in different parts of the country, depending on our project partner. So we also have an alcoholic version, which we call Tipsy with Sustainability. Right, it's basically the smoothie but add alcohol, and it works very well with adults. Again, we're trying to inject fun into agriculture, right, into development, and into building a green economy. Right, the tourism works, like people like to travel, but we also realize that for every 100 people we talk to about going on an agri-tourism tour, only one really comes, but all of them are interested to eat and drink, and so these programs are now available in the city. And we also have a program called Feast from the Forest, where the items that we're growing with the community, such as the honeys, the teas, and then we source coffees from the communities. We put it together to give a very compelling agroforestry story to tell people this is why you must protect the biodiversity and the watershed, because these things can grow in the watershed, right? And it's so what's good for nature is also good for your palate, in that sense. And hopefully that we're able to launch this year. It's a program called Disappearing Dinner, right? The food that you could lose to climate change. So we're looking for a restaurant and a chef who would be willing to partner with MAD on it. Basically, it's a 5 to 8 course menu. Chef talks about where it comes from, but we'd also like to talk about the climate story of each of the items you're eating. What's the climate story of rice? The climate story of fish or meat? And what are the solutions around it, right? And because I heard that a lot of the people here are really into business, we put in our business model here. So you see the progression. We started with tourism, really, and we saw that the tourism became very educational. And then we branched out into events, and now we also do community training. Our phase 2 was really all about ecosystem restoration, and now we're also including products. in the area. And we eventually had to work with an existing foundation so that we could also cater to donations to communities because a lot of people wanted to help, right? Now, one last story before I end is about wildfire, which I had mentioned earlier. We lost about 22,000 trees in a 1 year span due to wildfire. And I'm not sure if some of you are farmers, but this is really expensive and it's really dangerous for the people on the ground, right? And when we looked at the site that we had in Zambales, this is what we encountered. No? In August, it would be flooding. So here, this guy wanted to buy rice, and so he had to cross the river, but as deep as 10 feet. There's the community watching him. He's got a bag of bigas with him. And then 6 months later, the river is completely dry, and there's wildfire in the area, mountains burning. All right, and within a 6 hour span, the whole mountain's just burned, right? And so you've got this situation of flood and fire, which if goes unchecked will spread, right? Because we see the fire jumping due to strong wind. So we were very challenged. How do we stop fire when it's almost impossible to bring water up to a mountain, right? We looked at the elements that were involved, and dry grass was the main fuel, yung kogon, right? And so what we did is we started researching. We found a tentative solution. We would harvest the grass and then put it through a pyrolysis chamber to create biochar, right? This is a very simplified version. We do have better kilns for it, but the idea was if it's gonna burn anyway, we will burn it on our terms, and we will burn it in a way that the carbon expended is reduced, right? And so this is the kiln we have in the community. We train some of them, and we harvest solid carbon or biochar. The nice thing about biochar is that it helps increase water absorption of soil, which is very important in places with lahar such as Zambales, Pampanga, parts of Bataan, right? Tarlac, Nueva Ecija. So you can see here the difference, soil only versus soil with biochar. Since the biochar can hold up to 5 times its weight in water, right? And we see here, because of the biochar, the plant in the middle, which has the most direct access to the biochar, is the tallest and the healthiest, right? And we've seen this work in some of our planting sites as well, right? And over here, you'll see on the left, when you have a wildfire, the burn, you get black smoke all around because there's so much oxygen, you can't control the temperature. But when you have a biochar kiln, we can burn and look at how clean the fumes are because we're able to capture a lot of the carbon and keep it in its solid form, right? So now communities are planting with biochar as well to enhance the soil, right? And we've also been able to use the biochar in construction. Yung mga yero, the metal sheets, they rust very quickly. But if we add biochar into the paint, they last for another 3 years. And the biochar also blocks some of the heat, right? Of course, the color also matters, right? So that's the nice thing about it, is the biochar stops it from absorbing a lot of the heat. And what we found, and we're currently testing, is cement, which is a big part of the industry. And I know all of us use it at some point in time. You can actually substitute biochar into the cement, and it'll dry a little slower, but it's a low carbon alternative. So Stanford has some research on it. As the Australian Institute of Concrete has research on it, and they're using it as well, right? So that's the last story I have, and I guess it goes back to what we mentioned earlier, that people don't take care of what they don't understand. And for us, we're very passionate about giving talks about inserting what I've shared with you into different tours for kids, for adults, so that they're empowered to become better stewards of nature and can make better choices, right? We do have quite a footprint around Luzon. These are the sites that we work in Zambales, in Antipolo, in Subic, in Las Piñas, Paranaque Wetland Park, in Lobo, Batangas. We're also working with the La Mesa watershed area basically we want to bring in National Geographic level science and understanding, but mix it with fun and adventure, and give it a cuisine perspective, culinary perspective, so that people really enjoy nature and understand what they can get out of it if they take care of it, right? And so this is our 1, 2, 3: education with impact, ecosystem restoration, and green economy. I'm hoping we can work with some of you. I just prepared this slide in case any of you want to subscribe for updates, or we have some free resources on how to reforest, how to reduce your carbon, how to reduce plastic. It's on our website, right? And again, contact information in case you'd like to stay in touch. Okay. And then just in case you're interested to help, very easily, we're looking for people we can partner with for Tipsy or Feast program within the city, because we want more people to understand and enjoy, enjoy the products of agriculture, but in a way that they understand the science. Or later on, when it's cleanup time, to host and partner with cleanups, so that we can also connect it to our fishery sector as well. So there we have it. Thank you very much, and I'll turn the floor back to Julius.
Right. Thanks so much, Raf. I met Raf quite a few years ago, I think, and I'm glad I finally have the opportunity to invite you to speak, because this, I think, and what Raf does really looks more at the side of the countryside development of what we do. I really what you call this? I really admire what Raf does, and I hope he was able to give you a snapshot of what he does, in that the sort of supporting the underlying support structures that would allow us to develop these communities, lift them out of poverty, all of these things. It's still rooted. It's still very much rooted in the foundational aspects of how healthy is the environment, how healthy is the foundation that we're working with. So I'm really glad that Raf had the time to join us this morning. We have time for, I think, one question before we have to end the formal session. So maybe if there's anybody who'd like to ask a question to Raf, don't worry. If you're this is just for the formal session. As a reminder, we only upload the first hour online to our social media uploads. And after this first hour, we have our informal session, where we can ask more questions and get to know each other. But yeah, we have time for one question. If anybody would like to ask a question. Well, maybe I'll ask a question, since there's I think one question, and I know our audience tends to have a lot of questions. So one question is, shall we say, incomplete combustion? Bitin, if I were to use the vernacular. I think I'll focus on the efforts that you did with the reforestation. So you've shown, basically, in terms of you've shown in the video the impact of the reforestation efforts that you and the volunteers who work with you through man travel and volunteerism, that impact is very big. However, there's a lot of discussion when it comes to reforestation projects on sort of, let's say, misguided reforestation, where it's just, let's just plant trees. And I think in the Philippines, the particular issue has been a lot of reforestation projects use non-native species like mahogany and things. And those have a tendency to crowd out native species and the like. That doesn't seem to be the case with you. Maybe you can give us a better idea of how you crafted this more successful reforestation program. What were the considerations that you needed to make? Were there failures or challenges at the start? Did you fall into that trap? How did you figure out what was the right mix of things to plant that made it significantly more effective? I think that.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Julius. Initially, because we didn't know anything about forestation at the start, what we decided, we were fortunate to come across people who were practitioners, and so I spent about 2 weeks on their farm, trying to learning from them, understanding what were the do's and don'ts, right? Because one of the people who mentored us, they had grown the wrong species and it all burned down. And so learning from that experience, they said that you have to interplant and everything, use the right species, plant at the right time, do your fire breaks, but also we consulted a lot with the community. We just asked them, what was here when you were born, or what was here when your grandpa was still alive, and we would get very interesting answers. And then the next question was, can we find those seeds? No? Some of the seeds were no longer available within the valley, but we were able to make friends with the Subic, with the Itas of Subic Bay, and they have a very intact forest. And so, after a tour, I'd be like, "Hey, can I pay the guide extra to pick up seeds in the forest?" And I will bring it outside to another group. And the Itas of that forest, when they saw the pictures of Zambales, they're like, "Oh my God, here, take more." Nakakaawa naman sila. So they understand as well, and I think it's that it's that mindset of trying to work with the community as much as possible. That they are experts, and we just need to know where to we have to give them that platform where their expertise comes out properly, and then we balance it out with science wherever possible. You're on mute.
I'll just edit that out. Yeah, getting local knowledge, I think, is something that is, I think, sorely lacking most of the time. Sorely lacking in a lot of these very, very well-intentioned, very, very well-intentioned projects. I think my wife, last night we were having a conversation and come up. The intention might be good, but it doesn't change the impact. So sometimes things can be very, very well-intentioned, but the impact will be something that is not, not accounted for, is very inadvertent. And I think it's a very good point to raise that there are people who have been on the land for a very long time, cultivating it, nurturing it, taking care of it. And maybe we tend to have the unfortunate inclination to overlook, I think, all of that historical or cultural history in the area. We have time for, I think, one more question. That was a very succinct answer. Thanks very much for that, Rap. Maybe I can invite somebody else from the audience again, if you have any question that you'd like to ask. Oh, I think Kaling. Yeah, hi, Auntie Kaling. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carolina Young. Hello.
Hi.
I'm so impressed at what you did. I would like really to learn a lot from you. But anyway, one question, yeah. It seemed that what tribe were you working with in Zambales? Because I noticed that the chieftain that you were talking to, he's very positive. He's very how do you call that? He's very receptive of the suggestions that you are giving him, and they're working as a team, because we had also some experience in other areas, and it was not the indigenous people now are not really cohesive. They take care of their own clans. They're now in so many clans, unlike before when you just have one chieftain.
Yes, yes.
And they don't keep their culture. I can see that in your area, they were in their outfits and they're so willing to learn and willing to work with you. Maybe you can. How did you do it? And what tribe is this that is so cooperative?
So there are 3 tribes now that are very cooperative with us. One is the Aitas of Zambales, the other are the Aitas of Subic, and the other are the Dumagat of Antipolo. The community that we have known the longest are the Aitas of Zambales. But when we started, they definitely didn't trust me when we started. And I had to come back several times to establish that I wasn't a threat to them, because in their minds, anyone who is Tagalog or foreigner coming into our land is possibly someone who's going to abuse us, right? And it took me about a year to establish that, I'm a safe person. I was introduced by the local government. I just want to give you guys tourism income. So I would get guides. And at some point, maybe within the first 6 months, the chieftain finally called me and said, "Why do you keep coming back? Why are you here? Right? Why do you keep bringing people? I mean, it's okay, but what's your intention?" So I told him, "Well, I really want to restore your land." And then I explained to him in a very short way what the forest science and the state of the world's climate and the Philippines climate. And he understood. And he said he wanted that. But he went to me and said, "Pero we don't have this. We don't have money." And I told him, what if we could find a way for you to earn, for me to earn, and then for us to get the resources for planting? And that was very interesting to him, right? Another elder that I had met, lady this time. I didn't have a picture of her. I told her, "Ma'am, I would like to help your community, so that you can move out, so you can move out of poverty." And she looked me in the eye and she said, "Are you gonna benefit from this?" Like stone cold, straight up. And I was very shocked because it was such a direct question. And then I told her that, well, the main objective is for you to benefit, right? Because I was a little shy about the whole situation. And then she told me, you said, "Child, look here. I'm asking you because if you benefit and I don't benefit, we don't have a deal. If I benefit, but you don't benefit, you're going to leave us. And so let's not even start. The deal I want is where you benefit and we benefit so that the relationship is long, right?" And now, looking back, now she's referring to a Maori concept in New Zealand where you want to have that long-term relationship. She wanted to establish a friendship where it was value adding on both sides, right? Because I think New Zealand, they have this saying where you can't do business if you're not friends.
Yeah. You start
Yeah.
being friends.
Yeah, you have to trust each other, right? And she didn't trust me at the start either. But by the time I had reached her, I already had some success of trees growing and income coming into the community in another village. So I think it's really just paying attention to them, listening. We would really go through their village, look at, map out all their agriculture resources, and then try to map out what their cultural resources were. And then we'd come up with a program that people would pay for. So today, some of these communities, if they did tourism on their own, and they still do sometimes, they'll earn like 100, 150 pesos per person who enters their area. With us, we can get them as high as 700 pesos per person. They'll earn, right? Because we're able to put together, organize the whole thing so that, we need more service providers who pay you more so that you don't work outside. And so it's a combination of time, but it's also a combination of making sure that the business dealings we have with them are valuable to them, right? That it really adds money, it doesn't take them for granted. And the donation aspect that we set up, because we saw that a lot of people have this habit of, it's Christmas, can we give them gifts? Can we buy them Jollibee? Can we donate our old clothes? Very well-meaning, very well-intentioned. But I saw in my first December with the Aitas, I saw how 5 groups wanted to do the same thing. And so we came up with a program. We sat them down and said, "Chieftain, what are the business opportunities in the area?" And we got all the, got the women, got the men. And I said, "What can you sell without me? But you don't have the items." Some said, "We don't have root crop. We don't have garlic." And then we did our market research and we said, "Sige, the ones that are easiest, let's see if we can fund it." So when someone comes to me, say, "We have this budget for Jollibee, 10,000 pesos." I'm like, "No, can you buy them chickens? Or no, can you buy them farm blades, yung mga machete? Or no, can you buy them seeds of this crop instead? And they're like, why? We just want to give them Jollibee. The corny naman to give them seeds. And I'm like, no, you're teaching them how to be reliant on you. What we wanted is to make them reliant on themselves. So give them the seeds, right? And so it's part of the job is explaining to people that, you know, as the donor or as the benefactor, you have a duty to the beneficiary, that you want to wean them away from the give me mentality, which the Mount Pinatubo eruption had completely like brainwashed many of the community to just say, oh, I'm an indigenous person, I'm a victim of Pinatubo, can I have something? We didn't want that. And Chief then, very lucky, didn't want that for his team either. He did not want them to beg. And so when he asked for stuff, it was for things that would really support their community's business. And so we just kept pushing. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'm just amazed. And you know, I think without even saying, I'm sure you poured in a lot of your resources because you're so passionate with a program in it, you know, and I think that was very noble of you. But you're also very lucky to have met a chieftain who's wiser and has more foresight. But maybe later on when they make money, I think there should be a way of how to teach them how to manage their funds also, right? Yeah, that you know, but the moment they see a lot of money, that's the time that they may get into trouble. But I want to congratulate you. It's amazing what you have done. And, you know, right. I want to get in touch with you also. So
yeah, please.
From you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for sharing what you do, Raf. It's a very inspiring story. Really, as we mentioned, the countryside development part of our goals as in the foundation is really rooted in the same foundations that make these developments possible. It's really hard sometimes to push for development in areas where I think that the phrase that you used in your presentation is, you know, there's nothing to be made if the earth is dead. And I think that's a really good sentiment to end our formal session. In any case, unfortunately, if you are joining us through our social media uploads, if you're watching this 2 weeks later, this is the extent of what you can get, you know, for free. So I'll have to end the formal session. Let's first present our certificate of appreciation to Raf. All right, so the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with all of our members, our special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, corporate members, and individual members, all present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Raf Dionisio for his invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for his commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker on our second online meeting of 2025, given this 11th day of February in Pasig City, Philippines, signed by Ernie Ordonez, our chairman, and myself as